What the Heck's your source for Warhammer Underworlds in under 30 changes since this game kicked off all the way back in 2017. I'm your co-host, Davey, and I got a full house today. How you doing, Phil?
Hey, real busy, but happy to be here.
Yeah. How about you, Skylar? How are you doing?
Feeling knocked back.
All right. Brian, how are you?
What's up? Doing well, guys.
And Zach, with the youngest child of all, how are you?
Feeling good. He's finally sleeping through the night, sort of. The birds are chirping outside, and I've been inside working all day.
Yes, I'm sure saying that out loud will not change how that's going to...
No, not at all. Right, guys?
Right. Yeah. No, it's 100% what I've experienced. Your context, we're recording on the 28th of May. And we are going to be talking, as we approach our 200th episode, we thought it'd be a good time to look back at the history of Underworlds. And since there are many, many years of Underworlds to talk about, we're going to keep our initial pieces short here. But I did have one important community shout out I wanted to cover, and that is the Christchurch Grand Clash. It is a world qualifier. It is, I believe, New Zealand's first. And it is going to be a 2-day best of 3. We'll keep a link in the notes here. And it's September 5th and 6th, going 5 rounds. If you would like more information, you can reach out to us and we'll get you in touch with the relevant parties. But it is Maddie, also at Barrels Brush, who is the person who reached out to us, or I can't remember if I did it the other way around, but basically I saw the thing was happening. I was like, hey, I'd love to promote that. I know we got some listeners down in that hemisphere, and we don't often get to do much for them, so I thought that'd be cool. Yeah, I don't know if Ruben will come stomping over there from his...
I was going to say, you Aussies better not go steal it from the Kiwis. We haven't seen a Kiwi out at Worlds yet.
Yeah. Ruben's too much of a prince to be a meanie to them, so we'll...
Well, I don't know. The Aussie-New Zealand animosity goes deep.
But anyone else got anything, or shall we jump right into this?
Oh, let's fire it up.
All right. Hey, so we are talking about just a little small topic, and that is the history of Underworlds. And for that, we're going all the way back to the first season. And already I have my facts a little shaky, but I believe this was the fall of 2016. Season 1 started with Shadespire. That first box set had Garrix Reavers and Steelheart's Champions. A few weeks later came out Sepulchral Guard and Gurzag's Iron Skulls. I believe Sepulchral Guard were the winner of the first Grand Clash ever. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Chosen Axes and Spiteclaw's Swarm came out. Farstriders and Magor's Fiends were the final warbands of that season. There was a card pack that was entitled Leaders, and there was a Shattered City board pack, something that I didn't remember until I was looking back through that. As a reminder, at this time, all these warbands were coming out. You would get not a full 32 faction cards. You'd have slightly less, and then they would come with, if not exactly a random set, you knew exactly which cards you would get with which warband, but they would come with a slew of universals, a set number of objectives, ploys, and upgrades. And so there's this interesting model that came with that. But let's talk about season 1. Phil, what did stand out to you about season 1? Would you say?
I mean, season 1 was both like super, super limited in that, when the game first came out, you literally only had the 2 warbands. There was nothing else. It was basically just a board game. And it was coming fairly quickly off the heels of Age of Sigmar. Mm-hmm. So for folks who aren't aware, Warhammer Fantasy Battles, which had existed, I don't know, since the 80s or maybe even late 70s, had been around, just kicking around as just the GWIP in the fantasy space forever. And come 2014, towards the early part of 2015, they did the End Times. And what people didn't probably realize at the time was that they literally meant no, that universe is done.
It was completely non-controversial.
No one was upset about it. Nobody ever ranted or raved or quit the game.
Burned
literally
armies.
Set their collections of miniatures on fire.
It's an expensive fire.
It is a really strong dedication to hating the fact that they ended the game.
Fairly carcinogenic too. So
yeah. But so after that whole fiasco, they started this new thing with almost no support. It was basically just like, hey, we still have all these models. Here's some very, very, very loose rules. With no like official tournament play support at all. It was just like, I don't know, you can push models around.
There were no points in Age of Sigmar. You literally had rules that were like, whoever has the greatest beard gets the better like of this dwarf ruling.
Yeah. It was some wild stuff for a little while there, but tying into that fairly quickly, they had this neat little game. I feel like the beginning of this was like a very just like, I don't know, this is new and interesting and different. And GW has a card system. That's cool. And by the end of it, it was like, oh, we're like really picking up some steam here. We got this new thing. We've got a second set of boards. Like there was no real clear indication of where the game was going, but kind of loved every step of it along the way. Despite the fact there was almost no one playing it. At least in the US.
I know for the rest of our crew, this is kind of before their time. Anything that stands out to you, Brian, Skylar?
Zach? So when Age of Sigmar was in that lawless state, Underworlds kind of offered a much more structured rule set and like a compact competitive gameplay. And so like I was kind of curious, I wasn't in love with the art style of Age of Sigmar and kind of that cleaner fantasy, high fantasy direction that they had taken. And I'm always just a sci-fi guy. But I did take a tutorial from like the Warhammer store pre-Vint age, and I bounced completely off it. I took Garrick's Reavers because I'm chaos through and through, and completely bounced off it.
I was going to say you probably literally bounced off of Steelheart if it was the experience.
I lacked a lot of context for what I should be doing other than just charge, and that's what I was told to do, and that was completely like setting me up for failure.
You're playing Garrett. That's fine.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know, the teacher wasn't fully. It wasn't speaking to me, and so bounced off it, and then returned back to it years later after many improvements that I very much enjoyed. The revisit. So Shadespire, I was always curious, keeping an eye on it because the models are always so eye-catching.
Yeah. I think one of the enduring memories for me was just that I did, years ago had played Magic, and so I really did like the deck building idea, but in this early era, I didn't really have, everyone was new to the game, but all in that I was, still figuring out what was good, what worked. And so was everybody else. So that's exciting. But you quickly realize like, man, they really had, this might've been the era where there was the greatest disparity between the good cards and the bad cards. There was so many of the universals, honestly, so many of the cards in general that came out with were like, really, I would not take this. And then some that were like, wow, this is insanely powerful. And here I'm thinking about things like Ready for Action, which was, hey, did you put an upgrade on somebody? We'll take an action with them. So it was, an auto take. And I don't remember the name of it, the fancy, not fancy footwork, but quick step or quick reaction. It was like take a move after somebody else moves.
Yeah.
So
reaction, get to do stuff during someone else's. You could deny charges with it essentially. And nowhere was that more obvious than the leaders pack, which I remember being excited, like, oh, sweet. They released an individual card pack. I really like the idea of this, like they supplement it, and whoa, it was like 32 cards and 29 of them were untakeable, and then maybe 3 of them you might like occasionally reach for. So a couple of them are bangers, but
yeah.
It was.
Well, and this was also what was the rule that you eventually could discard cards because the restricted fighter was dead?
Not till much later. Yeah.
Right. Way later.
Salvage,
right.
But way later. Yeah.
Right. And so like tying it all to your leaders was absolutely just
bonkers.
Bonkers.
But this was also a way to get like additional faction cards, right?
Yep.
I remember.
Yep. Every faction had like
there
maybe
were two
in there.
faction cards for every faction, and
one
of
of
them were stinkers.
Yeah.
getting into the game later, I was like quickly fell in love with it, and then slowly built a collection backwards. And I remember the leaders pack being like an obnoxious footnote in that, because I couldn't find one, at the time. And it was like, man, there's cards in there for the things I own. I want those.
Yeah. Right. For completionists, it was like a real stick in the eye where you're like trying to find that. But
is that the one as well where like there's the corn card? Is it corn cares? Yeah. Okay. Cares not. Is that
chosen.
Corn's chosen. 8 glory.
Yeah. I just remember seeing that card and it being imprinted into my brain that like there's a card that's worth 8 glory.
Yeah. All you gotta do is have Magor be the only model left on the table. So
there was also the one for Reavers that I think was only worth 6, but it was just have exactly one fighter on your side left alive and nobody else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they both got one.
Yeah. Even
totally
Targor. Targor pictured on the card. Well, that led us into season 2, and that was kind of an exciting time. Like we got to the end, and this is all new territory, right? Season 1 wrapped. Like, what happens next? Well, season 2 happens next, and it gets us deeper into the existing setting of Shadespire, which was this kind of realm ripped out of Shyish by Nagash, and this is going deeper into that Shadespire realm, the Night Vault, which is underneath it. Where we had Stormsire's Cursebreakers versus Thorns of Briar Queen. Notably, magic is now in the game. They had a terrain set, so if you had block texts, you could represent them with terrain. Then Zarbag's Gits and Eyes of the Nine came out as a pair. Godsworn Hunt and Mollog's Mob came out as a pair. Elthari's Guardians and Thundrik's Profiteers, like some really iconic warbands. There was yet another board pack. So for those keeping track, I think at that point we already had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boards, each with 2 sides, which was rapidly getting out of hand and would later become a problem.
Yeah.
Power Unbound, where they kind of learned some lessons, and that had some saucy cards in it. And right at the end, we also saw Dreadfane come out, which was a head scratcher. It was used as, I think, like a Barnes and Noble, like, hey, let's try and snag some of the board game crowd or some of the folks who might be not going into Games Workshop stores or now Warhammer stores, and maybe get them interested.
Such a weird thing to try and use as like an enticement into the larger Games Workshop universe, because it was so different from anything else that Games Workshop does. Mm-hmm. I did kind of like the idea, though, of having like an environmental effect deck. Mm-hmm. We played it once, right? Just the one time.
Yeah, I think I've played it a few times with siblings or something like that. But
sure, yeah. I remember it was fun, but it was just like, oh, this is very weird. At the time, we were like, a static board. You don't get any choice of setting up the boards. This is crazy. Turns out,
ahead of its time.
Yeah, ahead of its time. And also, Lady Heroes Mournflight way ahead of their time. We didn't realize at the time how amazing they were going to be.
Yeah, I was just about to say, is that the first or the oldest one that was like still relevant meta-wise at the end of the game?
You're talking about
interesting question.
At least in the original form, like obviously we had some of those re-releases.
I would argue Magor's Fiends were still kicking around at the end.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough call. I think you have a strong argument in there.
Probably the best that we're still hanging around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most versatile. Like Mollog was always haunting for every time they made like a little change suddenly.
Yeah. Well, I think Mollog is a really good example of something that was, we talk about magic cropping up in this season, and the issues that came along with that was every time then they produced a magic card, it was only good for certain warbands, and some warbands could use it, and some warbands could really use it, and so that I think became a real balancing problem with them. But similarly, Molag, like they introduced their first really big guy, and that had huge repercussions for a game that often would have us Voltroning fighters stacking them up with upgrades and abilities and stuff like that.
Well, and at the time of having the ability to stack these upgrades that gave multiple extra health, being able to push Molag to 9 or 11 health in some situations, it was a pretty daunting task to actually be able to bring him down. I think also of note is that throughout most of season 1 and into season 2, we really didn't have any sort of restricted list for cards. And our deck building rules were not in any way restricted.
There weren't even a restriction on surge cards, were there?
Correct. There was not. It was basically Thundrix that caused them to realize that they needed to have some sort of restriction on surges, because Thundrix, obviously, as they still do, were able to inspire off of scoring. And somebody realized that, well, what's the easiest way to inspire then? Just run all surges.
Yeah. All surges, and then a few end phase that say, did you score a lot of other cards? Cool, here's more glory.
Yeah. There's a handful of end phases that just gave you glory based on how many other objectives you had scored earlier in that round. So there was a third end phase one for 3, having had scored like a total of 6 of other objectives. There was one that was for 2, I think, if you had scored 3 other objectives in the round. Like, you can go find all these old cards if you really want. If you go to Underworlds DB, they still have a season 1 section, and you can go find all the old cards. It's very slow to load. There's a lot of cards.
Well, let me ask you that, guys. You got to guess how many cards were there in first edition at the end?
God, 3,000
more.
Because there was, I guess there was an average of 360 a season, and then there were 8 full years of the game, if you will,
plus Arena Mortis.
And that, I mean, I'm not going to do that quick math, but I do have a calculator.
3,500 in there.
You're very close. Underworlds DB, if I bring it up, gave me an answer of 4,056.
Nice.
Yeah. No, guys.
This is also a completely different age where there wasn't even when you mulliganed, you discarded those cards. You didn't even shuffle them back in.
Gosh,
and so
it's gone about that.
Gone.
And third end phases were just stuck in your hand.
And yet we still played some of them.
Yeah. They found themselves sliding more and more out of the way. But like Phil said, we finally did see the initial one was called a banned and restricted list, a bar, later become the FAR, Forsaken and Restricted. And the first things that got banned were the Cataphrane relics, which are a build the set sort of thing that was all the way back from the first season, which really didn't get unlocked until that full season was released, and the sort of capstone card was in there. And that was the first thing where when those came out, a couple groups kind of figured out how powerful they were, and the next Grand Clash had a Steel Hearts Cataphrane relics versus Steel Hearts Cataphrane relics on the top table, and they're like, okay, well, we got an issue here. When you started seeing glory counts that were getting above 30, we realized that there was a problem. And it wasn't just that, but it was specifically a very isolationist sort of play style. Not just that I can get high glory, but I can do it at extremely low risk and staying all the way at the very back of the board. And unless you've brought some very specific tools, there's no way you can possibly keep up.
You would structure your deck because you had to get to, I believe, 10 glory pretty reliably, because they did a fix first to just say, well, what if you had to pay 2 glory for each relic? That didn't work.
Also ahead of its time.
Which is impressive if that is how powerful they were, that even at 2 glory a pop, they still just had to ban it. But
well, because it was take an action, gain 2, 4
what the
glory. I don't know. I don't remember.
Do an action on the upgrade And gain glory.
Yes.
Yeah, just do the action. On the way, you would get. I think there might have been a bonus move or something, but there was then rerolls to attack, then rerolls on defense, and then just take an action, gain 4 glory. Yeah, pretty wild.
What are we doing?
What is going on here,
fun, man?
Yeah. Almost score annihilation with each time you take the action.
Almost.
Yeah. But to the broader thing, the idea of a banned and restricted, Forsaken and restricted list for folks that play other games. I know Phil, Magic very much, and Skylar, I think you have a broader experience with other games. This idea, it's not alien. It's not in any way unique to Underworlds to have such a list. Do we think it's just kind of a reality of this kind of game? Is it's once things are in the wild, you find so many more combinations and effects that couldn't be detected in playtesting?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's the number of different game elements and trying to design for all of the different combinations that is kind of impossible.
Yeah.
And with a really good design team, you can almost always avoid it. But even for Magic, where they do a really good job, they still end up with mistakes, and they have to be like, "Whoops, our bad."
Yeah,
like we got to stop that.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing an article from Wizards of the Coast at one point in time that said like, on release day, there are more games played of Magic than we could have play tested in like 2 years or something like that.
And you'll hear that across gaming, like even in video games, every designer will tell you like there's more hours logged within an hour of a release than they ever could test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for that, to that effect, sometimes I would see during the life of the game, like, how could they have released this thing? But but it's probably not as bad as we sometimes thought it was. Like really, it's just the number of people out there trying stuff out. That was kind of the wrap on season 2 there. Season 3 saw us change realms. We went to the realm from kind of Shyish, kind of a pocket realm, to Gur, which is the realm of beasts, and that was Beastgrave. We had a starter set with Skate's Wild Hunt versus Grashrack's Despoilers. There was another terrain set. For the first time, we had warbands come out individually for just so briefly. Grimwatch came out separate from Ripa's Snarlfangs, which we thought might be a sign of things to come. Then the gift pack came out. Champs of Dreadfane, which is their way of saying like, oh, hey, we actually need to like give people a chance to get some of these things. Also, we made Lady Arrow like pretty good, and people want them. And how do we get them? They did a similar thing with Champions of Night Vault and Champions of Shadespire, where the core warbands were brought forward. Then Wormspat and Hrothgorn's Man Trappers, a matchup that Phil and I played quite a bit. Morgwaith's Blade Coven, Morgoth's Crushes, and right in here was the Pandemic, which was
just a small event, not a big deal.
Quite a big blow to organized play. I think this was the season where Phil and I had made it to the previous year's Adepticon Grand Clash, and was many years before I had an opportunity to do it again. There's also in this was Arena Mortis. I should make note too.
Yeah. Beastgrave was also Skylar and I's Genesis, joining into the game, joining in and having. I think there was better mulligan rules. Or maybe not.
Nope. Not yet.
No, pretty rough still.
But I was, I bought into the box because Skylar's allergic to tape measures, and still is. That was on full display on Sunday. And then he was obviously lured in by the Wood Elves of Skate's Wild Hunt. And I was like, sure, I'll play Beastmen. At least they're chaos, kind of. Mm-hmm. And when we started playing, we quickly also got our friend Josh in, and I was gifted Zarbag's Gits. So with a combination of Beastgrave with Night Vault and Shadespire objective cards, plus the gift packs, relentless or restless prize and malicious spirits.
Yeah.
This was when my take and hold crazy brain playing Zarbag Skits was born, and it was crazy. It was such a crazy hold objective period.
Yeah.
Totally. I received the gift pack at Christmas, as well as the the split box, with Brian there. And oh my gosh, I mean, now we're here.
Yeah.
I played Skates Wild Hunt for my first year of the game, and it was so cool, having that as the constant that I didn't want to change. It was I'm playing the game through the lens of this warband. Everything else can change. My opponent across the table is going to bring something different, or because we quickly found the Madison scene and found you guys. That it was okay, maybe I always think of when I had to play against Rothgorn a bunch, and Rothgorn was the end of the season. Okay, cool. Yep. So I'd be okay, I wonder if I can beat Phil's Rothgorn this week, so it was cool to have I remember not really thinking about what is or isn't balanced. It was more a puzzle of what can I do to my deck, to my play strategy to beat what's across the table. And I thought that way for a long time. And then we were getting ready for Adepticon and COVID hit, unfortunately. And so then we see the FAR list that comes out, and it hit I remember being so proud. It hit 8+. I want to say even 13 cards in my deck. I was just totally toasted. I was okay. Exactly. I figured out what was strong. Cool. All right. Time to rebuild.
What I think I love about that what you were saying there is that style of playing, that's still available right now, right? That, hey, this is my warband, and I'm just gonna I will take whatever cards come, and I'll take whatever opponents come, and see what I can do with this warband, right? There's nothing stopping people from still, from playing like that. And there are lots of people do. That tends to be how Emmett plays these days. He's I'm going to just keep bringing this warband and, try these.
My
different
gardeners agree.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if at the outset that was the idea. If that was supposed to be the grand vision of the game. It was miniaturized AOS, where you don't play an army because it's the best. You play it because it's your favorite army. Because I think that's always sort of been the structure of the large games for the most part. People gravitate towards a certain faction because they just like it.
I think GW could have a market for a game like that, where the focus isn't necessarily on the new, because I just ran into another old Warhammer friend of mine at the store, and he's talking about the pace of releases and having to keep up, and he just can't as a father and all that. So it's there's definitely a market for having those slower rolled games, and I think that's exactly what the Horus Heresy and the Old World are, but also a skirmish game Underworlds. It's absolutely fun, and that was always something that I would always pitch people on, is that you don't need to keep up on all the different warbands that release. You just play buy the new decks. Granted, that's kind of an older, a later ethos that came out with Nemesis until we got out of Championship. But yeah, that was it. I really enjoyed that because it meant that I wasn't bouncing around to different warbands and trying to find who had the most cutting edge strat. I was okay, with the current card pool, what can I make work? And that also led to people would have to get creative with the card pool rather than going with the clear, strong, aggro build or whatever, and instead finding something like Tome's Mollog.
Oh man, I'm glad you shouted out Tome's Mollog.
Yep.
In the corner reading books.
Yeah,
totally. I will say that I miss faction decks quite a bit, and I think that they helped keep you invested in a warband, because you'd think about what other cards were available in your deck, and how can I rethink this, you know, in the new season, or what can I pick from in here? Like it was your own personal toolkit, and I really liked that.
Yeah, I think specifically, you know, because there's a lot of things I like about the War Scroll system as it goes, but I think what you're hitting on here is like, hey, is there a card in my faction deck that I would not have taken before, a tool that they have available to them that only became unlocked once another combination of available universal cards arrived, or some such. And,
totally.
I think that was pretty fun.
I think too, it being something that only your warband could take felt good, right? It's not, you know, a new card comes out now and everybody can grab it if it does something new and interesting with a different combination, but just having your faction card, it's like, yeah, I'm again doing this, and the person across from me is not doing that, like guaranteedly.
Well, that led us to another season still in the realm of Gur, but this is Dire Chasm, once again going deeper underneath the place where we already were. The Dire Chasm was down deep in the Beast Grave.
Yeah, this is in the age when you would start off with bad hole, and then you'd go deeper in the bad hole.
Yes, exactly. And this had a great box set, Dread Pageant versus Maori's Purifiers. That was, I think that resonated for a lot of us.
Yes.
Very much so.
Then we actually switched to individual warband releases. Something we got a glimpse at back with Grimwatch, Ripa, Snarlfangs, which I think was just like a shipping snafu that they got staggered. But now we start getting warbands one at a time, and we can talk a bit about that. But Kygra's Ravagers came out next, then Starblood Stalkers. There was a new starter set. Once again, a Night Haunt versus Stormcast here. This is Draper versus the Storm of Celestis. Storm of Celestis, sorry, Sleek, but this was a warband name that I can never remember. So,
yeah.
Crimson Court, Headcrack as Mad Mob. There was the Silent Menace deck, the first kind of theoretically themed universal deck that was supposed to be standalone. Canaan's Reapers, Elathane's Soul Raid, and then we saw Arena Mortis 2 release. Some absolute bangers in this season.
I gotta say that, like, there were better seasons, but this is personally like high bar for me. Like, this season I think was one of the most internally balanced, and it was a lot of fun for me. This was like, this was the season that was out when we came back from the pandemic and finally like came out of containment, and what we went to Adepticon with. And just, it was in my opinion, it was such a good season. It was plagued by large fighters and large Voltrons. And that's when we later saw an update to large fighters being anything more than 5 wounds being worth 2 bounty. Bounty, you know, not named, but effectively what it was. And this Dire Chasm just has such a good place in my heart, because it was fun, because while we were in pandemic, like Josh and Skylar both were kind of like, I don't know, like I haven't really been keeping up on it, and I got the Dire Chasm box set, and then it was Morgox and Blade Coven released at the same time. I was like, look, Skylar, more elves. and
so many elves.
But they were so, the Blade Coven were still bad. But I was just like, no, we're doing this. We're getting back in. He's like, oh, okay. And I kind of like pulled him along, and then we got geared up for Adepticon, and we all surged back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pandemic hit me hard. And then, like in a moment of hopelessness, I was like, I don't know about that thing that used to bring me joy. And Brian sat me down for a Dire Chasm box set match, and man, we played Miari's Purifiers and Dread Pageant for probably the next year.
Yeah. I think they really sort of hit their design stride.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, season 1, they absolutely had no idea what they were doing. The balance of the objectives was terrible. There was power card imbalance all over the place, but they were really fun cards. They were just,
I think the core mechanics were brilliant. And yes, they didn't know what the heck they were doing with the cards.
Night Vault kind of added magic and had a bunch of like we need to fix things because surges can't just be 12 surges and all that stuff. And then Beastgrave really kind of broke surges. I don't know if you guys remember
because
this,
Rothgorn had 8.
Well, only like 2 were good.
But like this was the first time we saw hold surges, and they did not get the balance right at all.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Like coming into the game, I just assumed that was part of the game. I didn't realize that it was brand new.
Yeah.
No, we had never had surges for holding object, and it was sort of always a problem in the internal balance of the game. Is that hold was a intrinsically end phase strategy. There was no way to score hold specific during the middle of the round. So I was like, well, what if we had surges? And then it was like, oh, whoops, those surges are really, really strong.
Yeah.
And so with season 4, I feel like they kind of had figured out all that stuff from the first 3 seasons and put it into practice, and then added a bunch of these sort of goofball mechanics that actually ended up adding a lot of interest in the game and had a really nicely balanced product pretty much from top to bottom. I mean, like you said, there were some issues with large fighters, but I don't think it was really ever super oppressive. You could always play around it to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, they had some clunkers in there. There was like the hunger mechanic never really kind of fired.
Yeah.
They had some challenges with how Arenas Mortis cards
interact with everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Just, they were great for Arena Mortis, but they kind of contributed to that Voltron big fighter situation.
Yeah. Well, we had another set of relics in Arena Mortis that probably never really should have been in the main game.
Yeah.
It was like, whoops.
But yeah, I mean, great
They've been
stuff.
out with the Farless though, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm curious here too. The Silent Menace coming out, is this kind of the start of like Rivals as a game format? And
they did not, but I think they were priming us for it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Didn't we have like a community made version of Rivals?
we did at one point, yeah.
What did we call that?
And I think the timeline is maybe a bit timey-wimey, but I think that was coming out of Bugman's Clash. Like, I think
You might be right, yeah.
they were kind of testing that without us realizing it. And it just spread in the community, yeah.
One thing that we haven't mentioned that had been happening for a couple seasons at this point was we were having card rotation. So season 1 universals would rotate out.
Right.
Then, so basically you'd have one full season of universals in play, and then whatever the developing season was in play. And although that created change, I think the other thing that worked to season 4's advantage was it was a relative period of stability, right? Like the way the game looked, although there were some changes, there was some insanity. Like this was the era where lethals were getting placed, right?
Yeah.
And draw tech.
Yeah, and so there were the boards were just really, really dangerous to be on. You could very much lose a lot of health in a hurry with some of the ploys and lethals and everything out there.
This was the season that forced the I don't know how to describe it. The where you could have just 3 hexes
board
completed.
Offset,
Yeah, if you did the full offset of the 2 side-by-side boards, there was I don't remember the real name for it, but like the shard pit.
Molten shard pit.
Yeah.
If you did that, it basically meant that everything on both sides, at least on the one side of deployment, was like all lethals.
Yeah.
For Zach's context, there were 3 lethals side by side, and you'd take a damage for stepping into them. And you could max offset the 2 boards so that basically Rothgorn could shoot the bear trap across the gap and drag them through 2 lethal hexes.
Yeah. Or he could knock somebody back, from one into the other and then drag it back into the one that they were in. Like it was gnarly.
Good times.
Yeah. For some.
And we're kind of lightly touching on the fact that, and this is some of the magic of the season format, is the season always came with like an overarching theme that it brought into play, and there was always an avatar of the seasons as well. So like season 2 we touched on was magic, right? And so they introduced this idea of like warbands are going to include wizards now, and like if your wizard is dead you can't cast spells, so we're going to immediately release a 3 wizard warband, and they're going to be the avatar of the season. Beastgrave was lethals. Was the introduction there, right? Yeah. And I might be biased, but Skate's Wild Hunt always felt like the avatar of the season because they had a lot, like they had scoring for knocking people into lethals. They had tools to help set it up.
There was also Pit Trap, which is just cruel.
Totally. And then here in season 4, we had Primacy. Like Primacy is like super prevalent to what Direchasm is. And then they release Headcrack as Mad Mob that are like, we do Primacy best.
Oh yes.
And so they were the avatar of the season. But for those who don't know what Primacy is, it was this really interesting mechanic that everybody included in their deck building, because if one person had the keyword in their deck, then Primacy was in play at the table for that game. And so you counted on it. And that meant, what was it? It was like, if you slay a target in one hit, you gain the Primacy token, which does nothing on its own. But like there are things that'll key off of it. And then, wait a minute, at the end of the round, you scored a point if you had it too, right?
So it was 3 extra glory for the game.
Yeah. That was phase. Being, tugged between both sides of the table.
Yeah, but it was either if you one-shot an enemy or if you were controlling 4 objectives at the end phase.
Yeah. Which is really cool because like it had the aggro side of the design of it and the hold side of the design of it as well, and then plenty of cards that would help manipulate that.
It was a big deal. We say 3 glory, but it's always going to one side or the other, unless on the rare occasion where neither side has it. But it's a potential 6 glory swing if one side gets all 3 of it and the other side gets none of it. That's a big swing. So, but that moved us on to another realm change. We went to Ulgu in season 5, and this is where we went to like half year seasons. So this one was Harrow Deep, Zandire's True Seekers, and the Cunning Crew. We also saw Black Powder's Buccaneers, our second Ogre, what I believe was our second standalone deck, Illusory Might.
Yep.
And then there was a weird delay with this where the Exiled Dead came out very, very late in this season, like basically on top of the season 6 that was coming next. And this season came with a new mechanic, which was instead of having lethals, we all of a sudden had cover tokens. All our tokens started face down. They were cover on the back. And we could delve, we could flip them back and forth. Previously, that was like restricted to very few abilities, certain power cards or spells. And the ability to destroy or flip them was like a whole niche mechanic that you could get into if you were a weirdo.
It led to some interesting previous season interactions where it was like, oh, this thing that tells me to have no objectives on the board is now much easier.
Yeah. How did that feel, Brian? Gits Enjoyer?
That was some interesting times. I don't remember if was I still playing Gits at that time, or was I on? No, I was on Dread Pageant, wasn't I?
Well, sure, you could do both. Both can be true.
Yeah, but I think it was like primary Dread Pageant because like
I do remember
because you could also delve like for infinite number of times as well.
Oh yeah, delving came with no restrictions at first.
There was not even a stagger.
Yeah.
No stagger. I think the Sim fighter couldn't delve multiple times.
That was it.
But you
could do 5 if you wanted to.
If you had multiple fighters on tokens, you could delve many times. So
Yep, time to stall.
Very long power steps.
I think maybe just a footnote, but also this was the first time we got a new token type in stagger.
Mm. Oh yeah.
I think Harrow Deep was a really awkward season.
It was. It comes into its own in Nether Maze.
Yeah.
And like you kind of got to wonder like if they front loaded it as like a year-long season, we would have had more of those cards and stuff like that. I don't know. This is also the time where they start doing the like half season rule update where it's like the start of the season is 100% Harrow Deep, right? Your season year. But that mid-year update of Nether Maze like comes in and like drops a few more rules to tune the year.
It was awkward because it dropped all of Beastgrave, and so we had essentially Direchasm, and Harrow Deep had kind of weak card pool initially, and like it was still kind of half baked in terms of like, okay, so it kind of wants me to delve, but it wasn't all that rewarding for delving. So it was one of the more narrow card pools that we had at the time, until Nether Maze came out and kind of fleshed things out.
I end up loving like this time with the game. The recontextualization, I forget what that card is that Phil was talking about, but it was totally worth like 4 points too.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong. I feel like there was the one card where it was like from Dire Chasm that was like, you're trying to destroy objective tokens, right?
Beastgrave wanted no objectives on the board.
That's Beastgrave.
Feed the Beastgrave?
Or you're holding all the... Okay, I don't know. I'll look it up when I'm not the one on the mic. But
I'm looking it up.
It was a card that ended up having to get like either restricted or forsaken because of the recontextualization, where all of a sudden it's like all of the tokens start face down, right? So it was really easy to like flip one up, and then like control all of the objectives. But regardless of my muggy memory here, like that recontextualization was really cool. And like Nether Maze really then like we get 6 months, it felt like, with this like totally fleshed out vision of that.
This is an era as well where from Dire Chasm there was still dominant position was in the game. It was a real kind of defining of the previous season and this era.
Really love that card.
Really, really great, interesting, interactive tug of war with that card. Yeah. But talking about Nether Maze, that did come out with Skittershank's Claw Pack versus the Shadeborn. Then the warbands that came out with it were Hexbane and Gorechosen. And there was the Deadly Depths standalone deck, another kind of marching along in the haven't quite figured it out thing of Silent Menace, Illusory Might, and Deadly Depths. I will say this whole Ulgu, it ended up only being a year in Ulgu, which is a little bit of a bummer. I loved the theming on the cards.
The art
it was real oppressive and creepy. Yeah.
After we came out of the everything's orange era.
Yeah. Everything's blue and gray. But some banger war bands in there, all of which we see in the current iteration of the game too. So.
Yeah, when we talk about a warband that kind of represents a seasoned Shadeborn there, like just absolutely made for that. Starting with the cover tokens up.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think that this realm sees its avatar until like they come out, because obviously it's them, and so it's more of like the realm, I suppose, had a avatar, because Xandire's True Seekers would be like, I don't know, the poster child for Harrow Deep, but I don't know if we could go as far as to say they like embodied the season. No,
mechanics. They're the antithesis because they actually brought a lantern.
Yeah.
I think they had some cards for that like flip tokens over too, so I think that's probably the intent there with it. But like you guys mentioned, this season didn't come into its own until Nether Maze.
Yeah. We went from there into another, calling them half seasons, but at this point they were true seasons. Season 7, we went back to Gur, which was a little bit of a surprise. I think this was an attempt by GW to kind of line up with where the main AOS game was going. Yeah, like, hey, if we line up our games like Warcry and Underworlds with the main game, like, it's kind of cool. And I could get on board with that. It was kind of they didn't stick with it, but or I guess they kind of did to some extent. A little bit. But Velmorn, Sons of Velmorn and the Gnarl Spirit Pack were the matchup in this season box. And then we also saw Grincrack's Loon Court, a true favorite of Brian's, and then Grisel's Aranai. And the decks that came out with this were Fearsome Fortress and Beastbound Assault. Now we're getting somewhere. What's that?
I'm still traumatized.
I know.
Yeah. They're literally on my painting desk and I still neglect them.
The true Nemesis era begins. We have shifted from these awkward standalone decks to real standalone decks, and deck building changed. We nixed championship.
It was jarring because Nether Maze reached such a good spot for championship, but I think probably the only failing of this was that they didn't release enough Nemesis decks at once.
I think I agree. We went to the Nemesis format before we were ready for it. There just weren't enough options to build because you were taking your faction deck and then one of a fairly limited set of rivals that were available.
Yeah. And some of those old ones, it was just like, no, I can't make this work. As much as I might want to, it's just never going to be possible.
Yeah, this is where you see a shift in the design philosophy on the decks too, right? Everything from this season on is 6 surges, 6 in phases. There's no like mishmash of like 8 surges for Rothgorn anymore, or 4 surges for some other warband.
So we had fixed that with the Ulgu season completely, but
Harrow Deep was the introduction of rivals. So whenever you got a warband, you got a 32 card playable faction deck for them specifically.
I think there's some weird balancing with what's in those decks, though. No.
Oh yeah, no, for sure they weren't good.
Well, I mean, in terms of like 4 surges or
I think 5 surges.
No, they fixed that as we got into Ulgu. They made sure everybody's faction deck was playable out of the box.
Or chosen F4.
This is true.
Yeah, which is playable, but not the same.
Yeah, they were viable. Well, they were usable as a faction because the factions never rotated out, but their faction deck was still like old school.
Yeah, just a different design philosophy.
Just the one weird hanger on, then I guess.
Well, I think that one's still legal. I think that was the point. Was because like it was 4 searches. Is that what you said, Zach? But then 8 end phase. Yeah. So like, is that 6 and 6 like what you want to see? No, but that was totally playable out of the box.
Technically.
Yeah. Whereas that wasn't always the case because Rothgorn had like 8 surges to his name. Yeah. But Nemesis here, I totally agree with you guys on like this being the hardest cutover to a season. Hardest card pool loss, right? Because it took a while for the Nemesis era to really gain speed from this point forward.
Initially, because of that lack of options, I referred to this age as gnarlism because it was just you had tooth and claw.
I mean, lots of people like playing Fearsome Fortress. I think
this was. I think, did Fearsome Fortress release before that Adepticon? I don't think so. So it was like, we had not our first Adepticon, but the Adepticon, we came back with Nemesis. We only had Tooth and Claw and Daring Delvers, which was in the box set. So like, to start off, because we didn't have as many decks, that's when I was all, it was just, we were just dehydrated for more options to build decks with. But once Fearsome Fortress came out and we got the more options, fantastic.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I think even with Fearsome Fortress, we were still a little light on the ability, and we started to see that as the seasons continued on. So Weird Hollow came next, and that was Storm Coven versus Ephelim's Pandemonium, which is 2 absolute powerhouse war bands. We also saw Headsman's Curse. We saw Skabbik's Plague Pack, and a set of decks here was Void Curse Thrall's Paths of Prophecy. And there was kind of a weird starter set mania where somehow there was like multiple starter sets that had Sepulchral Guard in them. That was a little confusing.
Yeah,
what was going on there?
The whole Barnes and Noble release, as well as a more streamlined GW one.
Yeah, I remember this as the time where we ended up getting the charged out rule, where if everybody had charged, you could reactivate. And I remember feeling fairly triggered about Storm Coven during this era because like they've got amazing magic, they've got amazing stat blocks. They really take advantage of the charged out rules. Like, man, these guys kind of have everything going for them.
Sure did. And talk about one of probably the worst core boxes that they ever made. Just in the sense that like it was probably internally balanced with the box pretty well and had really cool models, but just way wildly wrong for the rest of everything else. Just like hugely outpowered everything else around it, had no place being as strong as they were compared to everything else. Like, we were seeing errata to both of those warbands basically for the rest of the first edition. It was just like, how do we contain these two? Because we completely screwed up. So I don't know. It stood out to me that way. Maybe I'm coloring my memories a little bit wrong, but
I fondly remember
that's how I felt.
You're not wrong. Like, I remember Seismic Shock being such a breath of fresh air from that Gnarlism age, and that I was having a jolly old time. But yeah, I was also playing as Ephlem's Pandemonium as a unapologetic chaos player. So I was probably the bully not aware.
Yeah,
you went from Gnarl Spirit Pack to Ephlem's Pandemonium. You were kind of
yeah. Who?
That was one of the hardest releases to like experience locally, because I remember like everybody was so excited, and everybody was playing Ephelem, or we had enough Ephelem players. I think it was like 3 or 4, and like so everybody was either against them or playing as them, and very quickly everybody figured out what Phil described, right? And it was like, oh no, because nobody likes when their toy becomes like the most overpowered, because then like nobody wants to play with them, and so we kind of all realized like, oh no, we're all sick of this, like this particular warband already. But to Phil's point, we saw many erratas to bring that in.
Yeah. Next we had the Death Gorge season. This was Thricefold Discord versus Cyranize Razors, with another couple of rivals decks in there. We saw Daggot's Stab Lads, and then Zandara's Grave Rakers, and then Malevolent Masks and Rhymeblock Relics dropped with this season as well. This is where it really felt like we were getting into our stride on these rivals decks. We kind of skimmed over Void Curse Thralls from the previous season, but that and Malevolent Masks were so thematic and so interesting with what you could do. Pretty great stuff.
Yeah, and this is where I started playing, is right at this point. So I'm joining in and I'm like, man, these decks are awesome. And then I go back and listen to old episodes, and you guys are like, man, we don't have anything to play with. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is fantastic. What do you mean nothing to play with?
Yes.
It's right about this time as well that I think the first World Championships of Warhammer for Underworlds went down.
With not yet fully reined in Stormcoven winning.
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
Abyssos Avalanche being the most notorious card there.
Yeah, pretty wild. But I do think that this was like one of the most ambitious design spaces that we saw in the game. Like, they were really reaching into new, for Underworlds, new game mechanics to take advantage of the fact that we were playing a card game. So like Malevolent Masks had its stuff where you could like go get a card out of your discard pile and put it back in your hand, which was just something we hadn't really seen. I know Grimwatch had it technically, but it's just like they really sort of took the limiters off, it felt like, and they're like, you know what, we can do whatever we want. We make the rules. And that allowed us to see some really cool stuff between, I guess, basically from Void Curse Thralls on through all of Death Gorge. We saw some real cool deck space.
Absolutely. And whenever I think about the war bands that were like the most realized from a deck standpoint, this is where they live too, like in Headsman's Curse and Zandara's Gravebreakers. Like the narrative like explored through their mechanics and through their deck, I think is some of the most realized work that ever came out of first edition.
Yeah, I agree. And that wrapped it up with the last season that we saw from the first edition of Underworlds. That was Wintermaw, and all the Wintermaw saw was the one box set. It was Skinnerkin, Brethren of the Bolts, with and that box also had Hungering Parasite, Rhineworm's Bright, both quite defining of their era decks.
Yeah.
But this was where I would say that the point at which the Nemesis format was most fully realized. There was a full suite of selections to build in that Nemesis format, and so this is where it had the most chance to breathe, I would say.
Yeah, and lots of room for different. Despite my feelings about the hold options, we really did have full realization of all the different play styles at this point. You had full aggro stuff. You had some weirdo hold stuff. You had some very like off the wall stuff you could do with malevolent masks that was sort of flexy, but also doing your mask stuff. Like if there was something that you enjoyed about gaming, I guess, just more generically, like you probably could find it in this era. And it was at least to some degree viable. There was a lot of playable warbands.
Yeah.
Deck building was so fun to explore here. I even went off and did a side arc with the deck building show.
Deck. Yeah.
I was struck with analysis paralysis on this. I couldn't lock in on something during this time. I was like just so scatterbrained, and I think I was struggling to lock onto a warband after I had played out Ephelum.
Yeah, I think I remember you trying out other warbands. Like, this is trash. I'm like, no, it's just not Ephelum. And we entered kind of like a dead zone there. We're like, what is happening? Like, where's our next thing? Where's our next warband? Where's our next deck? And hadn't heard anything.
There was plenty going on there. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh boy. A quote that will live on in infamy.
But it did lead us into second edition, and that is Emberguard, not Emberstone, not Emberwatch, but Emberguard, the inaugural season of the second edition, where we saw Ziket's Claw Pack versus the Emberwatch that had 4 decks come with it. The loss of faction decks, War Scrolls come in. So a countdown to Cataclysm, Pillage and Plunder, Blazing Assault, Emberstone Sentinels. Gardeners and Jaws arrive not quite in time for the next for the next Worlds. We at this point we're seeing warbands arrive not co-packaged with, but sort of coinciding with a Rivals deck. So Reckless Fury, Rack and Ruin, Borgit's Edge of the Knife, Knives of the Crone with Realmstone Raiders, Knives, and Commandora's Blades with Reckless Slayers, kind of rounded out the first season of second edition. Weirdly, that ended up being 7 warbands, which I don't know how they, like, we got used to 4 for a half season or 8 for a full. But
just like everything else, they threw it out. They were just like, nope, chaos.
Yeah. But I mean, hard to overstate like what a big change this was. There was a lot there to bring warbands up to speed for the second edition. So there were the Grand Alliance packs. We didn't even mention some of the Grand Alliance faction cards in earlier things, but this idea of Grand Alliances being relevant, at least to some extent, and bundled together was interesting. And then digital releases, so that I think that appeared mostly for the most recently released warbands. So you didn't just go by Death Gorge only to find out that, or Wintermaw only to find out that your Brethren of the Bolt were not able to be played anymore.
Yeah. Kind of like how the card pool used to like still hang out for a year. It's like, okay, we need to make sure that the recent purchases are still upheld.
Yeah.
Here. Yep. Totally.
The whole release was coming out during Worlds. Like the second half of the releases were launched on the Saturday, which was day 3 of Worlds. It was a busy time for me.
It was a busy time for me trying to cover it. And we did see this was Drama Nation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
definitely slipped through the cracks.
Doing some prep games with you, Skylar, and It was very apparent very quickly that like
It totally was.
I think I like this drum stuff that's going on here. This is probably going to work pretty well. Played those test games and it was just like this can't be right. Something's not right here. And lo and behold, yeah,
It was.
And I almost brought Rhyme Locked Relics Soul Raid. I was so excited. I still can't believe that they didn't like give us a send off tournament. For first edition, because like everybody that played that year had qualified from first edition. So
and had been practicing with.
There's an emotional miss for me. I would have loved to have like gone out celebrating the end of first edition, and then like keep us at Worlds, like, you know, make the Sunday like a launch event for second edition. And
I heard many different things bandied about, and corporate said no.
Womp womp.
Yeah.
So,
but I think if that Tampa Open hadn't been hit by a hurricane, that probably would have been kind of the send off.
Right.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Right. Yeah. Disasters of all kinds swooping in. But yeah, so that kind of hits the first season, Akshi, a realm that we had not yet been to. And certainly after, I think what helped kind of get second edition started off with a bang for me was because they did so much work to bring warbands forward with the War Scrolls. It meant that it was, if they had started from scratch, like all the way back to the Shadespire box where second edition had started and you had like 2 factions to play with. I mean, obviously they were never going to do that, but it would have felt like I got so used to having so much choice, so much variety. And so it was kind of an exciting time to like, hey, let me try this out. And it was just the unfortunate part was just how skewed, because although Gardeners and Jaws couldn't show up to Worlds in that case, Reckless Fury could.
Reckless Fury and Rack and Ruin.
Yeah.
Well, Reckless Fury being the bigger problem here. And this is where we eventually did encounter a Forsaken and Restricted list again. Once in reaction to some of the things that happened.
Did not take long.
Nope.
Yeah. So we get to the end of that, and then we get into the current season. That's Spitewood, where we go to Gyran. So we've hit quite a few of the realms at this point, and this is Heralds of Kurnoth versus Blood of the Bull, and that was kind of a cool arrival. This one, instead of coming with like the 4 decks, right? This just had Deadly Synergy and Hunting Grounds. In there.
Another board.
What's that?
And another board.
Yeah, because I think like the marketing this time around, where like we got used to 1-year seasons, like the marketing here has been like, no, you're going to have the 1 core box. It's going to be good for the whole run. And so anything else is an expansion.
Right.
Yep.
So this occupied a little bit of a weird space for me, where it's like it's shaped like and looks like and smells like a new core set, but it is not, in fact, one of those.
No.
But we had pretty exciting models in that box, like the
so good.
Chaos Dwarden.
Triple Scathe.
Yeah, exactly. Again, you know, I think a thing that we can say throughout Underworlds is that the models, not every model is going to be to your liking, but man, when they hit it out of the park, they really hit it out of the park. So
yeah.
And then through the rest is we've just seen another couple. So Thanatek's Tithe, and we wrote it down as Sul, mostly so I don't have to try to say Ethereal Zephyrite's. Yeah.
Good job.
Who's the star there anyway, though? So.
Yeah. Oh, of course. And then the was it Nexus of Power? Is the Rivals deck that followed Thanatek out, and curiously for our Zephyrites, there was no accompanying Rivals deck, and that's where we currently stand today. Kind of brings us to where we are to date, and we are operating in that space where we have a fair number of decks now to build with. I think we're finding that again and again we are still reaching back to that Emberguard core box for a lot of our choices.
Yeah.
It'd be
Thankfully,
really
Nexus of Power is one of those like strong like reaches for deck building. But
yeah,
looking forward to more of those.
Deadly Synergy definitely was a real banger straight out at Worlds 25.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, I didn't mention there was another set of 4 Grand Alliance boxes that dropped here, so we had even more warbands updated. So there's a ton of choices as far as rivals decks and warbands to pick from. Generally in a pretty interesting place now.
Yeah, I think the only thing about this season that I've still not quite felt is that, like, although there's a lot of decks, the total feeling of choice, I guess, just doesn't quite feel the same. And maybe it's just because it's 2 universal decks instead of any faction objectives, but it's just like, yep, everybody's kind of running the same stuff that they've been running for kind of a year now, with small updates here and there, which is maybe partially because the Realmstone Raiders was kind of a non-starter for a lot of people, and then Raging Slayers wasn't good on release. I think it's better now, but would certainly be cool to see a whole nother core box with a whole bunch of new decks just to shake things up.
I think part of it is with the set of Bounty is set at 7, but 9 for Zarbags. With each deck being 16 glory each, it kind of caps a lot of that. So I think we're almost at a point where no matter what decks come out, the ceiling doesn't get much higher. So the bigger things to focus on rather than swapping decks is more the denial play. I think denial has been more important than ever before.
I strongly support that argument.
It's probably really true, and I just hadn't thought about it that way.
I wrote up a big thing in our Discord at one point in time about this, because I think about it quite a bit, how the games are longer now, right? And I think that the biggest reason for that is the what Brian was describing, right? I know exactly what you have from a potential standpoint as soon as I hear your pairing, right? And because the margins are so thin, I have to care about denial to try to get that win. So I'm thinking so much more here in second edition about denying your game plan than just the assessment used to weigh a little differently, where you used to be like, I think my game plan outscores you, and so you would just focus on that, and you kind of go for some key denial points or staple point, denial of staples. But in second edition, it's you have to have their whole objective deck, in mind, to really play at that high competitive level and get the edge up on your opponent. And I think that you don't have to play high competitive level to then find yourself in that thought experiment. You're also then with the War Scroll, you have on average 3 extra cards in your hand at any given time as well, that you're trying to find the key moment to use. So I think you just have your bandwidth stretched across so many in-play elements at any given time this season. So I think that's why the games have gotten longer. I find it really fascinating.
Yeah. I can think of some of my favorite moments denial related in second edition. Obviously, I was a big fan of denial in first edition, but I think it most often came up for me in these sort of reckless fury situations where, I got 2 fighters that haven't charged, but I haven't seen catch weapon yet, so I got to be careful. If I just take a nothing attack, I might accidentally give myself a charge token. I might see reckless attitudes come out. Now I've got to charge. So although the board state says the best thing I could do is charge onto this treasure and make an attack that might kill somebody, actually, if I'm keeping in mind denial, I may just walk over there, even though I've got a great attack. It will not net me the 3 that I might stand to lose if I give up Unrelenting Massacre or something like that. And when I'm on my A game and playing that's a pretty exhilarating, rewarding state to be playing in.
very, very much so. Kind of an interesting, like, thinking back now as we're talking about length of games, just how short games were expected to be way, way back when.
Yeah.
Our first Adepticon with 90-minute best of threes.
Oof.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Quick. It's real
Yeah.
quick.
I remember Brian and I training for our first Adepticon, literally for that. Well, even coming out to a Thursday night, and with you and Davey being, the stewards of the community, you wanted us to be prepared as anybody that was going to be traveling out to Adepticon. You're like, all right, like, you're going to have to play 2:00. Like, that's another step to this. And we took that to heart, and we're like timing ourselves at his kitchen table, and we could only get our matches down to 36 minutes, and it was like, oh man, we're so screwed.
Conveniently, you didn't usually have to go to 3, but yeah,
it's true. I mean, it's a problem that continues. Is just like how do we find, what's the, the community grapples with it too, like best of 1, best of 2, best of 3. What creates the best experience? Is it better to see more opponents, but acknowledge that, hey, bad draw or bad dice may lose you a match if you're on best of 1. I think it continues to be up for debate, and I think it's appropriate that there's all kinds of different formats that get put out there, so people can vote with their feet, vote with their cash about how they want to participate, what they enjoy. I think that kind of covers. Obviously, we didn't hit every highlight from the entire life from fall of 2017 to
what
9, almost we'll say 8.5 years later. But that's a lot to cover. I'm going to pass it around. Is there anything somebody wants to say about Underworlds, the history of Underworlds, or anything that got us here?
I'll go first.
Sure.
One of the things we didn't cover in detail, but it was like through first edition, every new edition or season of first edition always had some sort of an improvement that really like revitalized. Oh my God, that's such a like quality of life game changer. Like when you could mulligan and the cards would shuffle back in. Then when salvage became a thing and you could discard cards out of your hand for a power step for restricted cards, made restricted cards not a total trash to bring. And so like there was so many quality of life changes in first edition that really like kept reinvigorating the game as it progressed. And those felt really good. And it's something that I've missed in second edition. Where there's still some changes, like we got the Alcagranus, but instead now we have the focus action, which I think is ultimately better than having to explain to somebody when you mulligan and then you could salvage and all this. But that was an aspect of first edition that always felt like the game was getting more and more refined that I enjoyed.
Yeah. For me too, with where we're at in second edition, I still enjoy my games every time I sit down to play. I just think about the game a lot less when I'm not at the table. That bums me out a bit. I'm also a new dad, so I'm a bit distracted. But I just feel like the amount of permutations we used to have with the fact that each warband that existed had its own deck. So anytime we had a card pool out, it was always against that many decks that there were warbands for, right? And so there was just so much at any given time to explore. That second edition has really felt like that back to square one reset. Thankfully, we got warbands along for the ride, like Davey was saying before. I can't imagine if we had started second edition with Ziggurat's Clawback and the Emberwatch as like the only warbands. That would have been that would have been the story of Shadespire.
So eye rolling.
I think that we're somewhere along the Night Vault trajectory with second edition now. And like it would be really cool to see the iterations further down the line, because I got to start at Beastgrave. So I got to start at the next wood box,
Yeah.
when we look at second edition as kind of like a total restart point. And then the game just like continued to grow from then. And every warband, again, still had its deck. So it's adding to that permutation that the card pool was always against. So I think that's why I don't think about the game as much as I used to. And like why, for example, I'm so sorry for you out there who've been asking for me to bring What the Deck's back, but like I haven't been able to because like I just I kind of try a few combos, and I'm always pleasantly surprised with the nuances a warband can bring to them. But it's kind of more like that was like cool to discover versus like a whole like discovery journey, like exploration of all right, let's dive into this warband deck, and see what goodies are in here.
I think for me, what stands out when we look back across the full history of the game is how relatively unstable it feels. Like it feels like there were some periods where it stayed consistent, but there were pretty constant changes. We didn't really highlight all the kind of rule tweaks and stuff, but like championship or nemesis or seasons or half seasons, card rotation,
or
like
card errata.
And some of that stuff is absolutely to be expected. And I think it is a thing when fully invested, like it can be exciting to see those big changes. But it was, I think it meant that if there was a period that, hey, this isn't really working that great, then it would get changed. But conversely, if we had a period where like, this is awesome, like really like how things are clicking along here, that didn't really last either. Kind of things got changed up again. And sometimes we were wrong. We were like, I don't like this change, and it turned out, to be better than we expected. And sometimes, the other way around. So I think it is a game that has often been in flux, and we've said in the past, like, when things are new and unknown, that can be an exciting time to be in the game. But taken all in composite, you're like, wow, there really, really were a lot of changes. So over that time period.
Yeah, I think to add to both of those, we're in a much more stable spot even than like end of first edition, where it felt like there was still some like what's actually good, what are the strong decks, what's good with those decks. So we still were kind of figuring out, even almost 6 months into Wintermaw. I feel like we were still like, who's actually good with Hungarian Parasite? Like what's the actual best spot for that? It's kind of both good and bad now that we've gotten to like a really stable spot with like, okay, we know Pillage and Plunder is good. We know pretty much any warband can use that. And then you can kind of plug and play it with a new warband. So you can kind of control variables when something else comes out to really kind of hone in on like, okay, is Thanatech good? So I know this Pillage and Plunder Blazing Assault deck's good. Does it work with this warband? Whereas you had to completely relearn something before, which was again both good and bad to both sides there. Just kind of interesting to see that kind of drastic change coming into this edition.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've been trying to think through in my head as you guys have been describing the same idea is like when we were trying to figure out decks in first edition, there were often, I think, times where there were cards where it was like, this works with this warband specifically because of the synergies that this warband has in its objective deck and its inherent mechanics that maybe no one else can actually run. And so you got to have these cool like discovery moments that were very unique. And for the most part, I don't think we have that as much anymore because there's just not as many unique mechanics. A lot of the War Scroll abilities are fairly generic. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it just means there's like less interaction that allows for unique play styles. To Zach's point, I think it's like you kind of know what the best cards are in each deck, and you generally can plug and play them across like all of the warbands. So it's much more of like what is the best thing I can be doing with this play strategy rather than what is the best thing I can be doing with this warband.
Sure. I think like say you're taking Pillage Kata or something like that with one warband versus taking it with another warband. There are cards that work with one that don't with another. Maybe Commanding Stride is something that you wouldn't dream of taking in one warband, we taking the other. But really, we're talking about like maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 cards. Some cases are more drastic than that, but the variation is a little more constrained than it might have been otherwise. We say that, but if we do look back all the way to Shadespire, if you took 2 of your faction cards, 2 or 3 of your faction cards, like, oh, you must have a pretty good faction deck,
Yeah,
because the good universals were so good.
No,
but
Shadespire is definitely not that way. I will fully admit.
I think it kind of comes down to we're in an era where you spend more time like playing the game. Like assuming you're with somebody that you're going to be able to jam a game with, you're going to spend more time playing the game than you are going to be like tweaking a deck and thinking about a deck outside of like that time together. Like, oh, next time we get together, like I'm going to have this totally new deck. That's there still, but it's like a streamlined version of it. We think about second edition as all of these streamlined touch points for new players and for the edition, as a whole. It kind of ends up feeling like a skirmish game, with a little bit of deck building homework instead of like those 2 ideas like serving as their own momentum for the game. I almost actually feel like I lost the thread there.
I think I know what you mean, though, of just like the deck building is somewhat simplified, and so it's easier for new players, and it's probably a easier jumping off point for other GW people because they don't have to worry about a whole deck building scheme. And like, as much as this is a miniatures game, I feel like season 1 edition 1 was very much like a card game. It really was a deck building game, and I think they've leaned away from that in some ways because like it's GW is a miniatures company. Their thing is like skirmish war games. So probably shouldn't be surprising that they're trying to make a lot of that easier. But I think for folks who played through all of first edition, we do feel some of that loss.
Well articulated.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's going to about do it for us here. If you want to talk to us about your favorite thing through the history of Underworlds or something that you think we overlooked and should be truly ashamed of having talked about, then you can let us know the usual spots, whatthehexcast@gmail.com, or hop on our Discord and chat with us there. There's all the content from the Mortal Realms Network at themortalrealms.com. We want to say thanks especially to all our listeners. We're almost at 200 episodes. And speaking of that, coming up, we've decided that for episode 200, I think the joke has been that we brought on new hosts and never introduced them. And Phil and I think never really introduced ourselves. We just kind of jumped straight into push ploys way
Sure
back.
did.
When. So we're going to celebrate kind of 200 episodes of What the Hex and just make it a round table where we talk a little bit about ourselves, our podcast, what we loved about the game over that time, and what we enjoy in the game and beyond. But before we get there, we've got a little hurdle to cross, and that would be
is it the card that I promised I'd look up? Is that where you're getting at?
It's no For Glory card.
No, there were 4 glory cards. How dare you? Universal ones, even.
I don't believe there were.
Feed the Beast Grave was spoken in this episode. That is,
it was 4.
It's 5. It's a.
Was that one 5?
It is 5, but there were 4 glory cards. I'm pretty sure
there are 4, but scant resources for those who were like screaming it at the car while driving to work. Be safe out there. It's all objectives are held, or each player has no unspent glory points. And I just remember this one becoming forsaken because it was in every deck. Because all objectives are held was really easy when those went face down on us.
Yeah.
That was what you wanted to tackle there, right, Davey? We're all set.
100%. However, there's another thing I want to cover, and it's kind of on the theme of Skylar and Brian arguing with each other and both somehow being wrong. We're gonna do
Skip Resources is not 4.
It's not. It's
2.
There's not a 4 glory end phase.
All right. So Brian is making the declaration that there was never a 4 glory end phase anywhere in the game.
Fight me.
Okay.
Well,
We'll cycle back around, but this is great listening for everybody. In the meantime, here's some even better listening, and that is the Flavatext quiz.
Still not scared.
Never are. This one is attributable to Ephelum the Unknowable. This was the paths and permutations, so majestic in their volatility.
Jesus. Can we get a season hint?
Oh yeah, that's actually funny because I briefly considered reaching all the way back into first edition, and then when I saw there were 4,000 cards there, I was like, nah, that's a little too mean. We're in the Emberguard. We're actually in the Emberguard core box with this one.
Branching Fate?
Branching Fate it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, well done. That even reaches back.
Yeah. So the paths and permutations that this game went through.
Oh man, so good.
Your recommended listening for this episode is Long Violent History, and that is from Tyler Childers. A lovely track at the that one has vocals, but it's at the end of a very cool otherwise instrumental album. For What the Hex, I've been Davey.
I've been Phil.
And I've been Reshaped Realm. I mean, perfect match. I mean, Duggan. No, absolute desecration. I mean, Skylar. I've been Skylar.
Got him.
I've been Brian.
I've been Zach.
Burn.
All right. You got God. All right, I'm hitting.
Burn.
All right. You got God. All right, I'm hitting. Okay, so I've hit start
Part for the course.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what you mean to say is par for the course.
Yeah. It was funny listening back because I was filling in. I wanted to make sure I didn't repeat any recommended listenings or flavor text quizzes. So I was like, I got to fill that spreadsheet out. There's some gaps in there. So I was going back and listening to a couple things.
Do you track what was the first recommended listening?
It was Push It, and at that time we weren't doing recommended listenings. I was just straight up playing the song at the
just a very small
snippet, just a clip, but it was definitely in violation of like copyright. So once we got contacted to like receive preview stuff, I was like, I guess I better go clean that up so we don't,
You know what you could do for the for the last recommended listening is episode 1.